What up, is Marcus Dynasty Dads? We are going to be talking about running backs, and we're going to be talking about the analytics on running backs. And if you draft a running back, or if a running back gets drafted in the second round of the NFL draft, what are the chances that they become a top 24 running back in the first 3 seasons? And what happens? What are the chances they do it multiple times? Because really, running backs have a shorter window. We know that compared to wide receivers, compared to quarterbacks. And so what are the chances of hitting per round? Is there a big difference? Where's the drop-off? And so these are going to be some important questions that have to be answered. And I've done analytics in the past where we've done 1995 to 2020 or whatever. So we've done that. We are now shifting this to the last 10 years. And I feel like the NFL draft has changed. Even the last few years, it has changed. We've seen the less running backs go in round 1, even the higher rounds. We don't see the Barkleys or anything like that go in the top 5, or the McCaffreys or the Fournettes that are being top 5, 10 picks. We just don't see that anymore. We likely are seeing running backs go in the end of the first, early second. Like, that's a big sweet spot. So some of these analytics may shift down as the process goes along. And if we look at this in 5 years, you might be able to move it back half a round. So let's start with running backs that were top 24 if they made it at least once. So at least once. What are your chances? And so if you have a round 1 running back in the first 3 years, the chances of them being a top 24 running back is 66.7% chance. So you have a 2 out of 3 chance. That is as simple as it can be, right? 2 out of 3 chance. It's ironic that you'll find out shortly that they also have a 2 out of 3 chance of being multiple times. So usually if they hit once, they're going to hit again. And yeah, there is some running backs that end up becoming busts or becoming just running backs that unfortunately get hurt, or we've seen the Rashad Pennies and all of that as well. But 66.7% chance of being top 24 one time. And so when you move that to round 2, it's like, is there a significant drop-off? And there's not. It's almost a 50% chance. You have a 43% chance that a running back is going to hit once. And so in their career, a 50-50 chance, I think, for any position is a good chance. I mean, we're going to talk about wide receivers, and wide receivers are always harder to pick out. Their draft capital doesn't help them as much, in my opinion. There are less running backs that are drafted within the first 2-3 rounds that we're going to talk about. And there's always more wide receivers. You're going to have more bombs that you're going to have to try to avoid, so like Minesweeper. You're going to have to go through, and you're going to have to avoid the Henry Ruggs and the Jalen Ragers and whether Jerry Jeudy ends up becoming something, or the Brian Edwards, or the Dwayne Eskridge and the Tutu Atwells and the this and that and everybody else. It's like, or the Chase Claypools that tease you a little bit and then they bomb off. So it's like there are a lot of wide receivers and we're going to talk about that shortly here at the end of the week. But 48.3% chance that you have a round 2 running back that hit once. 38.7% chance that you have a round 3 running back. This is why I've talked about Zach Charbonnet and Devin A-Chain and Roschon Johnson, and a lot of running backs have to have the draft capital. It is important that they're not going to jump necessarily all the way up a bunch of different tiers, but they are going to rise to their tier, the top of their tier. And they're going to move up in some rankings. Draft capital is important. It's not an end-all, be-all, but it is very important for running backs. 38.7% chance. Again, it's not going to determine everything in Dynasty Fantasy Football. We've seen that with the Trey Sermons, the Zach Mosses, the Keyshawn Vaughns that have gone into the top 3 rounds that have ended up being poor running backs. And so you have to kind of filter out through some of these running backs as well. But there's a drop-off. When we get to round 4, it's 14.9%. There is a decent chunk drop-off here. In round 5, 14.7. In round 6, 9.1. And in round 7, 5.0. And so if you're looking at something that, 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5 running backs, when you hit in round 3, it drops. You're dropping tremendously. You're dropping in more than half of what your chances are when you get into round 4. And now, I am really interested to see in a few years when we start to get a little bit more even into the analytics of stuff, like probably from 2020 to, let's say, 2025, taking those players and seeing, okay, what round 4 players are hitting. Because right now it's still pretty much only Dameon Pierce. There's a Devontae Freeman and stuff in there as well. But, there's still round 4 running backs and beyond are I mean, they're diamonds in the rough. You're still looking for the Elijah Mitchells. You're still looking for the undrafted James Robinson. You're looking you're looking for the Aaron Jones. You're looking for, again, the diamonds in the rough. There are not a lot of running backs that are going to have, and we still don't know if Dameon Pierce is going to have long-term longevity in this league. I mean, he had what we thought of kind of year. A not top 12 year and just kind of a top 24 year, but just barely and not necessarily super fantasy relevant. So, again, take it as what you will. Now, multiple times a year, this is where you really want to get a running back that not only hits for a year, but hits for more than a year. And so, yes, some running backs are going to take longer to develop, but running backs are, in general, they're going to hit early, and a lot of times they're going to hit often. And so, round one, 66.7% chance you have, again, round one, that's so 2 out of 3, that you're going to have a running back hit more than once. 34.5. So we do drop 15%, 14% from a one hit to a multi-hit player. And still 34.5% chance in round two. I mean, I like those odds. I really do like those odds. You're still looking at close to 2 out of 5 running backs. And there's some running backs that you can definitely filter out that you think, oh man, I've always been the Cam Akers. I didn't think it was going to happen. But then you start getting into the J.K. Dobbins. Got hurt. You get into Javonte Williams. Well, he ended up figuring out because he got hurt. Like, you have a lot of running backs that have just gotten either hurt or and so this is a 3-year time frame. We're not talking about 5 years. So maybe outside, like J.K. Dobbins, maybe if we extended this for the 5 years, he would hit. But he's not a hitter because he unfortunately got hurt. And so 16.1% chance if you're in round 3. So you're really getting this cut in half. So if we talk about the round 2 to round 3 running backs, we're looking at Zach Charbonnet. We're looking at Devin Achane. We're looking at their longevity in this league and seeing, okay, am I going to take Zach Charbonnet or Devin Achane or Roschon Johnson? Am I taking any running back over Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnston, or am I taking any of these running backs over it? And some of the draft capital is going to be very, very important just to see, okay, are they going to have longevity in this league? Are they a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick? Draft capital matters. It doesn't mean everything, but it means a lot to where we can move them down or up in some of these tiers. And so when we move down to round 4, 4.3. I mean, that's where we really fall off. And then 5.9, 2.3, 2.3. So really, you look at what happens, and they really fall off drastically when we talk about these running backs, multi-year use after round 2, pretty much. So if you want a 1-year hit, you want a Tyler Algier, you want that might be a one-hit player, and it might be like, hey, let's get out of this as soon as possible, which is I was a Tyler Algier fan, but I am immediately selling if I can get anything for him because he's in that draft capital of, you're looking at multi-hit player, you're looking at less than 6%. So that is a huge, you gotta go for the 94%. I mean, you look at the analytical odds, you just have to do it. Because there are so many teams that will replace the running backs like that. James Robinson, Michael Carter. We'll see about Dameon Pierce. But it's just these 4th, 5th, 6th round running backs that get replaced. And very few actually have the longevity. Aaron Jones is one that has survived some of this. Elijah Mitchell got Christian McCaffrey on his team. So he did not survive this. So I think that the running back analytics are super important when it comes to Dynasty Fantasy Football. All right, this is Marcus Dynasty Dads. Peace out. See you again soon.